I swear
to tell the truth,
to tell the truth,
nothing but the truth,
nothing but the truth,
everything but the truth.
everything. No.
Let's start again.
Yes.
I swear
I swear
that the evidence
that the evidence
I shall give before the Commission
the evidence that I shall give before the Commission
shall be the truth,
shall be the truth,
nothing but the truth.
nothing but the truth.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
Commissioner.
For the record, could you state your name, your address, and your profession?
Okay, I'm Patrick Bayadouye. I live at Lago Glassy. I am retired, but most of my career has been linked to education. But upon retirement in 2017, I was appointed chairman of the board of directors of IDC. And it was during that time at IDC until April 2013 that I was able to visit all the islands administered by the company. And during the 6 years as chairman, I initiated and helped also, assisted with the production of 12 programs on 7 islands. And the last programs that I worked on was on Assomption, by coincidence. The team that produced the series.
Could you, for the people who are not familiar with the work that the team that you referred to did, could you tell us what that consisted of and in what year the series was actually made for SBC?
Okay, it took some time to put it all together because we worked a little bit on it and off, and so there was a lot of research, a lot of script writing, and then we went to Assomption for 5 days to do the filming. This would have been in late 2023 or early 2024.
And what was this piece of work that you put together?
It's a documentary program on Assomption. The first 2 programs looked at the history and development of Assomption, Guano period, etc. And then the third program looked at Assomption as it was then, and then also there was a sequence on the future. I think the CEO described the hotel project. So we had the past, and then third was more or less present and future.
I have had the benefit of looking at the 3 programs. Would I be correct to say that the programs contain some original footage, original photographs of the island?
Yes, but if they were very old photographs, obviously we went to books or something like that. But during 5 days of filming, we covered a lot of the island, so it would be pretty original.
And those 5 days of filming on the island was in what year?
I think it's late 2023 or early 2024.
So it was before any of this present hotel development had started.
Yes.
That's what I wanted to
yes, but
situate.
Remember, the third program looks at the hotel development. The airstrip had been enlarged and so on. That's the third program. But the first 2, definitely, we looked at going up to the present.
And would I be correct to say that you have a personal interest in the cultural heritage of Assomption and the rest of the islands of Seychelles?
Yes, it was when I was at IDC that I developed that. Unfortunately, I had no notion of that before, but it was only since 2017. And so I feel, because of this program, actually, because of the 3 programs, I feel pretty connected. I feel for that island, really.
Thank you.
Because of the program.
So I leave you to talk us through what you want to contribute to the Commission's work.
Okay. Thank you.
Please proceed.
Commissioner.
Thank you.
Just to go a little bit back on the programs, so we spent around 2.5 years on the 3 programs because we worked on it a bit, then we left it to do something else and then came back. So in all, I have visited Assomption 4 to 5 times, and I've stayed there twice for 3 or 5 days. So I am reasonably familiar with most of the heritage pictures that will be shown. And this is where I can contribute to the work of the Commission. I can't, unfortunately, do it on the environmental side because that's really for the experts. But on the heritage, not too bad.
Thank you.
Okay, and as an introduction, I would just like to refer that in the past, witnesses have referred to the small cemetery in the north of the island where the first village was established. And on Tuesday, during the session with Mr. Bernard Georges, there was some discussion on the siting of the Japanese restaurant. I can expand on those two subjects and at the same time talk of some other concerns that I have concerning the preservation of old buildings and other structures that have been left by people who have worked on Assomption since the late 1880s. It is that far back, and they have left vestiges. It is my opinion that we must respect these vestiges of their time and life on Assomption, because they were contributing directly to the economic well-being of this colony, and later on of this nation. And they participated in our history, our nation. We must respect that. And during the session, we shall visit 3 separate sites on Assomption. The map, please. Okay, this is a map of Assomption, and we shall be visiting sites A, B, and C. A is the area where by 1885 the first village had been established. Zone B, that's the present village, which on the map is called settlement. And Zone C, we shall get pictures of that. That's an area of exceptional natural beauty. It's really fantastic, and I shall explain why we have to go there. Now, if we go to Zone A, what I call the northern structures, there are 3 items that I want to highlight. First one is a small cemetery that has been referred to. According to Mr. James Labiche, who went to Assomption back in 1964, and he is part of the film that you have seen, he remembers seeing 7 to 8 graves there. But in 2023, when we went, there was one which was really visible. That was the Meg grave. That's the one that you see there. But otherwise, there are some other graves there. But I think what's happened is that the tortoises have come in because the other graves were low. You'll see some pictures of those.
Can we go back to the Meg grave? Is the Meg grave the young individual who drowned?
Yeah, so I don't know the backstory, but in fact I couldn't work out the
dates.
Décédé.
Okay.
I know he's né en 1929 or something like that, but I cannot work out when he dies.
Passed away.
But that's, though it was there, this grave. It was very visible. And another one that was visible, because I took a picture, was that worker's grave, the one at the bottom there. Right? And I say it's early period because way back, when workers died, they actually didn't put a grave as such as the one on the top. This has certain corals around it. In the past, they just did a ring of stones. We've seen that at Anslaska on Silhouette and also Grand Barbe on Silhouette. So, but that was there in 2023. The others, the 2 others had been crushed, I think, by either rain or tortoises passing over them. But that's the small cemetery. Definitely it was there in 2023.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, that's one of the graves that we didn't see in 2023, but it was there. I was sent that picture by somebody. It was there before.
Thank you.
So there were several people buried there.
I think I will interject at this stage to say that we have received documentation that one of the graves, that one is still there. A picture was taken for us and it's being sent to us. So we were happy to see that the grave is still there. It's very close to one of the villas, but it was uncovered by one of the workers there, and we are hoping to get that photograph sometime this week. Thank you.
I'm very happy.
Thank you.
Really, really happy.
These graves, are they close to the Meg grave, or are they somewhere else?
They're within a perimeter of, let's say, 10 meters.
Okay.
Because remember, it's a cemetery.
These
it's a
we
small
don't have.
cemetery.
These we don't have a sighting or a record of at the moment.
Here would be about Villa 20.
Villa 25. I think we'll have to check that, but it does help us to try and focus where to look to
Yes,
see if they are still there.
But if you go back to the first picture of the cemetery, that will tell you under those bushes, Boitaba, I think it's called, there should be some graves, but I don't know with the weather and the tortoises if they're still there.
So
but
it was a cemetery of sorts. It wasn't dispersed graves here and there. They were all around in the same area.
Yeah, collection.
Thank you.
As Mr. Labish remembers, 7 to 8 graves. It's a special area.
And in your opinion, these should be protected and perhaps a structure put around them
Yes,
to preserve them.
Yes,
Thank you.
Madam Commissioner. No question about it.
Thank you.
Okay, then we go to the other picture, base of workers' huts. Now, to most people, this will not appear as anything spectacular or important. But the point is, these are the base of huts of workers who came to live there, to work on Assomption back in the 1890s. And this is only after half a day's work. The manager had told a team of workers to clear that area near the water tanks, and he came up with that. So if there was some other work, there'll be other structures, other bases. And this, I think, also should be protected because it marks the passage of Seychellois on that island.
And that's near the present village.
No, this is close to this area in the north, the site of the three structures that I will talk about.
That's site B.
Is site of former settlement, the 1880, 1890 village.
So bear with me for a minute. What is depicted as B there? Is that where the base?
This is the modern one.
Okay.
Okay, we're still up north now.
So the base of the workers' huts are also at point A.
Oh, yes,
That's what I wanted to
because
just
that's the first village, okay? And as I say, I think there could be other of these foundation stones, but we didn't see them. We just cleared a little bit to fill.
So there hasn't been a proper I might call it archaeological, actually, anthropological or archaeological investigation around that area to expose, I suppose, past historic habitations and settlements.
No, nobody's done that. In fact, that applies for the whole of the outer islands. There are treasures, I mean, historical
Yes.
heritage treasures to be found if somebody really did a serious repérage.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a fine example of that nobody knew about that. It's just a manager. We told him, can you find us some old structures? And he cleared it for us. So there'll be things like that on the other outer islands too. But I say this could be a heritage area, fenced off. I don't know. It could be some displays, if one was interested in doing that. If not, you build over it. And the next picture, this was just to show the type of huts that were on that foundation of those corals or whatever. Okay, this is on Astove. But that's the same period. So we're talking about that sort of structure. And the third thing that I want to look at, the first village, I don't know if this still exists. I did ask somebody who had been up there recently, but she wasn't too aware of the structure. Therefore, maybe she didn't see it. But these are two sizable water tanks, and they are old structures. They date from 1908, 1910. This is the plaque on the second one. There's an earlier one, then there's the second one from 1910. Therefore, it means something. And they shouldn't just be, destroyed, built over. I mean, I don't know what the status is, but I would just like to remind people that this was a recommendation that two of us made when they did the scoping exercise. These tanks, and the cemetery. Okay?
Thank
so
you.
I hope that they are still there. And the table, there's a table on the ESIA report, page 46, which it's too small, but I'll just read them. The comments was that for the ruins, I think they mean in the north, it said that the loss of historical buildings dating back to settlement of the island, so definitely it is this one, it's negligible. Okay, if they were not saved, the effect would be negligible. And then it goes on to say, most ruins have been reduced to foundation only, definitely not. And then no architectural significance to these structures. No. I cannot agree with that. They mark the passage of people on that island, and you can't just throw it away like that. And then at the bottom we have for the cemetery, singular, and then it goes cemeteries in the later column. So significance of effects of residual impact after mitigation, negligible, and I'm not sure what it means. Is it the cemetery is not important, whatever? But it's not. I don't know. I don't know who wrote this, but it's just not acceptable.
It was the ICS environmental impact, social impact assessment report.
But don't you think they got advice from some other body, because ICS would not be knowledgeable of historical structures?
This is why I've asked you to come, because it looks like the social, in terms of the environmental social impact assessment, the social was a little disregarded, if I may say so. And I don't know whether anybody from Seychelles Heritage actually made any submissions, but I don't see anything reflected in the report. The report at page 65 says, following consultation with the Seychelles Heritage Foundations, they have indicated the proposal to refurbish some of the existing ruins into a craft village. I don't think that refers to the remnants of what you have talked about.
No, they refer to the actual IDC village.
And they say, additionally, a cemetery that was identified during scoping and all other existing infrastructure has been highlighted on the development master plan, and a historic village found within the current IDC village will not be impacted.
In fact, I'm coming to that when we move down south. But I think these comments refer to the ruins up there.
I think this might, at point 6.19.10, they talk about preservation of historic sites. They say the consultant has provided information regarding the existing ruins to the Seychelles Heritage Foundation so that they can assess and document these ruins. But that is as far as it goes. So what I wanted to find from you is, did you raise these matters during the scoping exercise?
Yes.
You did?
Yes.
But you don't see it reflected in the final report?
No, well, not for the one up north.
Okay.
For the ones up south, down south, these are all there because they're in the line of sight of people, and also the hotel hasn't, as far as I know, gone into that village.
Thank you.
But I'll have a few things to say about that.
I just wanted to finish that part, and then you can continue. You can progress.
So we'll finish with the site up north. We finish with the ruins, the historic ruins. And but my comment about that table is that in my view, it's a sad statement, and I don't know who came up with that. It is not true. The water tank has not been reduced to foundations. In fact, you can see it in 2024 anyway. It wasn't foundation. And cemeteries, plural, in the mitigation column were supposed to have been preserved, and I'm thankful for your input to say that at least the main grave is there. I don't know about the others. One would have thought that there would have been at least a Seychellois to have asked the developer to move the position of whatever villas they were building there to ensure that these traces of early occupation remained. And we move on. Now we're going down to the IDC village. And as Madam Commissioner has pointed out, on page 65 of that report, we see something which is very reassuring. It says, following consultations, there'll be proposal to refurbish some of the existing ruins into a craft village that will display local art. I don't know how much they're going to sell because we don't need 37. I hope it doesn't come to 37. But anyway, even with 37 villas, full occupancy, 2 or 3 people in a villa, you're not going to sell much in terms of craft. I mean, it just doesn't work out that way. But the buildings can be repurposed. Definitely, I mean, museum of Guano period, whatever. That Seychelles are coming to Assomption later on. When the IDC guest house is built, they'll be able to appreciate what's going on that island. However, we have this very reassuring statement, and then we come to this table, which I think people should be familiar with. And this table, prepared by the 2 independent scientists, Dr. Ibrahim and Mr. Rich Bachter, as a result of their visit on the island. And it summarizes the results of the observations on the compliance status of the Assomption project against the legal SCI commitments. And what do we find? I must say that when we look at that reassurance that we had from 699 evaporates. Because if on the environment side, which is really critical for that island, there were, out of 20 findings, there are 12 which are of definite non-compliance. We are 3 unverified, 1 requires investigation, and only 4 are really compliant. It doesn't go. I mean, there are commitments on the historical side, commitments on the environment side, and this shows that it's not being complied with. It's as if the developer is doing what it wants. What it doesn't want, it doesn't do. And that doesn't leave a lot of room, a lot of hope for the cultural side, the historical cultural side. I will therefore ask the Commissioner's indulgence so that I can highlight some sites that I referred to back in March 2024 during the ESIA scoping exercise. I won't go through it, it's too long.
Yeah, no, please go ahead. Please go ahead, take your time. You have all the time that you need.
Thank you. Hopefully not boring. Okay. At that time, Mr. Patrick Nazi and I highlighted the historical structures that exist in the IDC village, which in our view must be conserved because these, like the structures up north, mark an important part of Seychelles' history as a guano producer. At one time, guano was the single most important export from these islands. Even if people up here on Mahe and Lade, we weren't really aware of what was going on down there, like Saint-Pierre, Astove, and Assomption. I mean, they were generating a lot of income, well, for the lessees, hopefully for the country. Indeed, I hope that by mentioning and showing them during this session of the inquiry, I can provide an extra layer of protection to prevent them from being wiped out during any further development, be it of the Qatari Hotel project or the proposed Seychelles Coast Guard station. Okay, so they are not out of danger yet. And I hope that the stakeholders will be aware there are these structures. Let's not wipe them out. This settlement, this village down there, was set up in the 1920s once the guano industry really started to take off. As such, therefore, it has a valuable collection of buildings and structures which are, in the main, more than 100 years old. We saw the manager's house when the last lessee gave up the lease, Mr. Harry Savi. That was the house of the manager. And it's actually on the same pedestal as it was in 1926. This is a famous picture taken by James Horner, who came here to do a study on tortoises, the turtling industry of Seychelles. But he took pictures while he was on Assomption. This is a very nice one. You can see that the house that the foreman had was in better shape than the manager in 1975.
Yes, that's correct.
Anyway, right. So we have that, the house, then the main cemetery, which lies between the village and the beach. And I think it's being protected. I think there's sandbags that have been put around those because otherwise it will just continue eroding.
It would be eroded, yeah.
So it's an important one. There's a family of people who are buried there because obviously when we had sailing ships, there was no way the body could come back to Mahi. They were just buried on the island. And then we have an interesting thing, the two guano sheds. They are pretty big structures, obviously you can see. There are even bigger ones on Saint-Pierre, but we can't go to Saint-Pierre because it's a very hostile island, but we can access those. I think they should be kept. And then there's another water reservoir. You remember there was one from up there, 1910, but by then the village had shifted down south, and therefore they needed more water. Therefore, they built this huge one. I think it's 45,000 gallons. It says on that plaque. I can't work it out too well. And then the next one is interesting to people who are interested in history. It's what the outer islands had to collect water to last them during the dry season. You can see the shape of those roofing sheets. And during the rainy season, they would have to collect everything that came their way, because during the dry season, water would be on a ration. And this is on Cosmoledo. Actually, Dr. Jean Mortimer took this photo. Every worker would have only 1 bucket of water a day to do everything, cooking, ablutions. So these
Drinking.
were pretty important texts.
Yeah.
Okay, but I think there's a couple left on Assomption. They should be retained or even refurbished. It just shows what life was like in those times, and we should keep them. Then we have a series of buildings that once the village came down south, they had to build, because then they were dealing with guano, and they needed a bit more elaborate service. So we have a hospital. Well, they called it a hospital. It was really a room with a few beds in it. There was no doctor, no nurse. The wife of the manager acted as nurse. But, there was also a post office. And right at the end, I think that's a chemical store, because they had to test the amount of phosphate in the guano that was being dug out or taken out the surface. And they had an acid that they put into it. They shook it. I think they looked at the color. In the film, there's an assistant manager who describes that process. And then also we have the old, the non-refurbished ones. The next one, that's the old shop and a jail. There's also a jail there. And we can also see the date that they built those, and we have 1918, we have 1923. Okay, so worthwhile. It's really worthwhile.
Of significant historical interest.
Definitely, and it's good that IDC kept them. It refurbished some of them, some not yet, but it's really important that they are there. And final structure on that bit of the island, at the IDC village, are these. As you can see, they're not exactly in the prime condition, but this is where the single male workers resided. Those were called the ward, ban ward. Okay? And in the film, it explains what happens there. It's all for male workers. Those who were married had a separate house.
So this is where the coq marron lived.
Ah, I'm glad.
Yes. I saw the documentary.
Yes, the coq marron.
Where the single men, yes?
Yes, the single men. Coq marron, yes. Okay, so again, worthwhile, but it needs to be redone. It's been like that since the lessee left in 1980. Perhaps it had a roof. It's all gone now, but it's perhaps one example. You don't have to do the whole thing. Okay, and that's those are the structures that I hope we can save at the IDC village.
And you would have been more comfortable if these had been included, even as part of the ESIA. Yes,
definitely. But there is this. I was telling you about the reassuring paragraph.
Yes.
But
the reassuring paragraph from I am not sure it makes complete reference to all those structures, only the structures in the present village. That's my difficulty.
I think it referred to the present village.
Exactly.
It doesn't go into details,
yes.
So one can go and nobody can say, but we did not refer to that.
Yes.
But in the scoping report that Mr. Nancy and I prepared, we had all of those. No, I think I missed that one out, actually.
And this was submitted to ICS, who were preparing the ESIA.
Yes, to the Ministry of Environment, actually. It was on the 18th. There's a date stamp on. I'll give you a copy.
Please.
19th of March, 2024. Okay.
Thank you.
We are more reassured by this reassuring paragraph than we are on the north side. But I say because of the non-compliance with environmental requirements, we don't know how reassuring really we are.
Yes.
Okay, and I'll move on to the third.
Yes, please.
And last section.
That's point C.
Yeah.
On your map.
C.
Yes.
Now C is special, really, really special.
Yeah.
This is found right at the end of the 5.85 kilometer beach.
Yes.
I measured it on Google Earth. I think I have it around that distance. 5.85, it ends there. Okay, and this is a unique area for Seychelles. It's where beach meets the karst cliffs, the karst Saint-Pillon.
So you can see. I have also taken photographs. I've been there. It's a raised. You can see the raised mushroom very clearly. There's a cove, and you can see the raised mushroom structure quite clearly.
Yes, that's. Thank you. That's what also impressed me.
Yes,
because there are 3 raised reef islands. There's Aldabra, there's this one, and then there's Saint-Joseph. But Saint-Pierre. Saint-Pierre. It's very difficult to approach. Nobody goes there. Aldabra is protected area, so this is most accessible. And that's where you can see most clearly where it's a raised reef. And where there's the beach, and it goes to that Saint-Pillon that's been raised.
And you would agree with me that a very beautiful cove there.
Oh,
spectacular, yes.
That's what I'm coming to, yes.
Yeah.
It is, in my view, I think you are of the same opinion. It is an area of exceptional beauty, and placing a Japanese or Chinese restaurant anywhere near this cove is not necessary, it is not desirable. It will destroy the uniqueness and beauty of this place. Look at, this is the raised reef. This is where the beach ends, and then it meets this. It's formidable, vraiment formidable. And the next pictures, that picture. This is when you're standing just below the raised reef and you're looking at the beach. I put the picture on top to show the massive caves that you have in the Champignon, in the karst area. And you can see the size.
Yes.
It's really, and I think that's how it erodes, it falls into the water, and then another cave is done. It's really exceptional. And that's my last picture, really. It's definitely not a place for Japanese or any restaurant. And actually, what happened is that both Mr. Nancy and I refer to Mr. Nancy because he was part of the team who worked on the documentary programs, and therefore he visited Assomption, and therefore when we did the scoping comments, we did almost the same scoping comments. We identified the same areas, etc., and this was one of them. Okay, and as a result of those two comments, let's put it this way, I think the Japanese restaurant was put somewhere else. But then last year there was a 4-day, 4-day stop notice. Remember, there was a stop notice, and then 4 days after it was lifted. It was sent out. And I think on that time the Japanese restaurant came back to that cliff. This is mad. It will discover this unique spot. I therefore oppose it for the second time, regardless of who ordered its reinstatement. And Madam Commissioner, that concludes my presentation, and thank you for your attention.
We're very appreciative. It is the only narrative we've had about the social, cultural, and historical aspects of Assomption. If I may say, we've had a lot of testimony about how the development on Assomption will impact Aldabra. We haven't had any really of how it will impact Assomption itself. And I think apart from environmental concerns, this is the first one we've had of that type. So we are very grateful to you for presenting that. May I ask you, going forward, because I know you may have heard of a variation of the stop notice, and the likelihood of a partial development or perhaps a reduction in the size of the establishment that is going to be built there. Can you please, for the Commission, outline your concerns, your ongoing concerns with regard to Assomption?
Dr. Barnes, go I have the last one. It's the table once again. Yes, the famous table. You say, Madam Commissioner, on Tuesday, Dr. Douglé of SIF informed the Commission and the public of the variation order, which will permit some construction to continue. Apparently, those that are at foundation level, that are whatever, it will continue. But I think it's the first time that the public has heard of this. I think I follow the news pretty well, and I've never heard of this before. So how is this going on now? So there seems to be a double track. We have the public inquiry, and you giving as much information as possible, and then we have a task force, and I'm really glad that we have a task force to look at the future development of Assomption. But then it seems that if the task force is operating in a non-transparent manner. I think everybody will recall that up to 15th of January, people did not really know the scale of the problems on Assomption. And therefore, I'm grateful to Dr. Ibrahim and Mr. Baxter for opening our eyes through this table. And therefore, I will ask, so I'm not answering your question directly, but I have another request. I will use this forum to ask that both of these scientists should become members of the task force. They are our eyes. They've been our eyes on this development. Maybe then we'll know a bit more of what's happening on Assomption. It's incredible. We are dealing right now in this forum with the results of a massive failure to consult, to communicate, but why should we go down this path again? Please. And concerning Assomption, what I would like, I really, the thing has to be rethought as a real eco project, because this is what it was advertised as. And I think the CEO, Mr. Savi, wrote to the president or the VP to outline an eco project. It's not an eco project as we have it now, but maybe we can go back to this being an eco project.
Could you tell us what you envisage as an eco project? What do you see? How do you define an eco project?